What's up, everybody? So we're back out in the shop with another Shop Talk Tuesday, and I'm releasing a video that I really think needs to be talked about. Now, I was going to do some other stuff and things like that, but after these last couple of blade shows that I did kind of back to back, I feel like something needs to be, brought to attention. And maybe some of y'all have actually thought about it, maybe y'all haven't, but let's just be real. Why do people sell fake knives? Why do you think that's a thing? And should they be allowed at gun and knife shows at all? So here's my deal. I did 2 shows back to back. I did Blade Show Texas, and then I did a local gun and knife show. And whenever you get to experience those 2 things back to back, so one was a couple of weekends ago and one was last weekend. So I got to see the 2 huge differences between those. So of course, Blade Show Texas, you have a lot of makers, you have a lot of people that have a lot of pride in the knives that they sell there. And if they're selling crappy ones, they're going to get called out on it. The local gun and knife shows, not so much. I was there, so I worked at the one in Blade Show Texas, and I had a table at the local gun and knife show. Now, of course, Blade Show Texas, it's like $400 something a table. If you do the one that's local, it's like $65. So to me, even though I was competing against these Pakistan Damascus, these, $40, $50, $60 knives, it was okay because $65 to me was good to get my name out there within the local crowd and show them that there is a local bladesmith that actually sells real knives. Now, here's the funniest thing about this whole entire ordeal. People walking around in Blade Show Texas, all of them were just looking at knife to knife to knife to knife, table to table to table. People that had similar types of knives and quality and things like that. And then for the local one, as soon as they would get to my table, they would go, "Whoa, real knives! Like, these are like real knives." At first, it kind of threw me off a little bit. What do you mean by real knives? And of course, that's because the whole entire time they were walking around looking at these knockoff knives and these knives that said that they were Damascus, but they were selling them for $45. And as we all know, you're not selling a Damascus knife for $45. Heck, most people who do Damascus knives have more than $45 in just raw steel in those knives. So they wouldn't sell it for $45. Now I'm going to show you a couple of knives whenever we get over here. One of them I'm redoing for a person who was actually at the local show, and I'm going to talk more about that, of course, later. But why do people sell these crappy knives? I'm going to pop a few things up on the screen just so you can actually see what the heck I'm talking about. So these right here are going to be your Etsy knives, the ones that if you've ever had an Etsy store and people scroll down to the bottom and they get to see what is a competitor to your knife, they're going to see these $30 and $40 and $50 and $60 knives at the bottom of the screen that are direct competitors to your $250 to $500 knife. Now, a lot of these are just fake pattern Damascus knives and knives in general that just don't make any sense for the title of what they call the knives. Sometimes they'll have knives that say that they are chef slash camp slash EDC slash fighter slash hatchet slash machete slash could be a baseball bat, but you never know, all in one title. And you're thinking, those things don't make any sense. How does that all come together to make one particular knife? And the fact is that it doesn't at all. So we're going to go over here to the workbench, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, because this lady's knives, it's one of those knives. So let's go ahead and see what I'm talking about here. So now that we're over here at the workbench, I really want to give y'all understanding of a few things here. So for one, this is a knife that's made by me. This is what you would consider a real knife. Of course, this is my kind of gentleman's kukri that I make. Really cool, exposed copper, 5160, forged and made by me. This is some kind of off-brand Damascus little hunter. Now, I am redoing this knife for a local lady. This has sentimental value, and that's about as much that you need to know about why she's going to be keeping this versus getting a real knife. Now, here's the deal. Real knife, not real knife. They both look like knives. They're knives. They both have cutting edges. Well, cutting edges, yep. Both have that. They're both made of steel, but why is this a real knife and why is this a fake knife? Here's your reasons. One, that's not real Damascus. It's not real pattern welded steel, Damascus, whatever you want to call it. How do I know that that is not real layered steel? Because when you turn it to the spine, you see a pattern. Pattern, no pattern. Weld seam? What the heck? Now, these are polished. They were polished before I got this. I etched this whole entire area. That's why the top of the bolster is dull. It goes pattern, and that pattern fades into mono steel. I etched that just to see if there was pattern all the way through here. There is not. That is mono steel. And then there's a weld seam because the steel that makes up the rest of the tang is completely different steel than the rest of the handle or the rest of the blade. So here's where I have an issue with that little guy. This is the thickest area on the knife that's made of different parts of steel. This is where the weld seam is. That is the breaking point of this knife right here. So other than that being an issue, other than the fact that it's fake Damascus and the fact that it's plastic handles that are kind of like jigged antler looking stuff, it's fake antler. What happened was she dropped it, it hit the ground, handle came off of it. That's why she wants me to redo it. But I had to ask her, the few things that she wanted. She wanted the handle fixed with the handle material that she likes, and she wants me to make it to where it can hold an edge. So those two things, handle, that's fine, easy, but I had to ask her, are you cool if I remove this fake Damascus whenever I redo the bevels and things like that? And she said yes, but here is the funny thing. One of the tables next to me, they had a whole run of these fake Damascus knives, about 100 of them on their table for between 40 to 60 bucks. And as I'm explaining to her that this is going to disappear whenever I actually go through and change the bevels and clean everything up, and that it will never etch like this again, his face dropped. He was in shock, and he started second guessing all his knives. These knives that he had been explaining were 19 in 20 and 1095. And if you know anything about pattern welded steel or Damascus, those are 15 in 20 and a 10 series steel. Well, like your 1080s, 84, 1095, things like that. Because the 15 in 20 is what makes the shinier lines, because it has the nickel content, and the darker lines are the 10 series steel. Now, of course, he started second guessing everything, started asking me, how do I know? And I said, well, here, let's look at our spines. And you can see when that transitions like that. And he's looking at his going, all of mine do that. What the heck, Eric? I've been telling these people all these things about these knives. Have they just been thinking I was lying to them? And I said, actually, a lot of people really don't know this. But here's where I have a big pet peeve with this whole entire ordeal. My real knife right here. And this knife right here, if this was a real knife, a real Damascus hunter with bone, handle, and bolster and all that stuff, at a blade show, these two knives would be the same price. This big monosteel, beautiful thing right here, they would sell for the same price. Now, people go to blade shows and they see that and everything, and they're like, okay, it makes sense because this one's Damascus, a little more work went into making the steel, things like that. It costs about the same as this one. But whenever they go to a local show and they see a whole bunch of these priced at $40, and they see my knife priced at $400, and they're wondering why the heck is this, when it doesn't have the cool fancy blade stuff as this one, why is this so much more expensive than this? Why is that a thing? Well, that's because, of course, this one is handmade by me in America. Real maker did the whole entire thing. It's got a good edge. It has great edge retention. The geometry is all nice. The handle material's real. Versus this, handle material's fake. The ergonomics are horrible. This edge right here is just as sharp as the actual cutting edge of the knife, and that's where you're supposed to put a finger. On top of that, there's a good chance it'll never hold an edge because this is crappy steel that was probably not heat treated properly, and it just has a laser etched Damascus pattern on it. So they're wondering again, why is this expensive as it is, and why is this as expensive as it is? Why can they get this for $40 to $50 when this is $400? And again, that's because real knife versus fake knife. Yes, does it look like a knife? Yes, does it have an edge? Yes, does it have a handle? Of course, it has all of those things. But this will never be what this knife is. Never. Doesn't matter what you do to it. Now, of course, I'm going to redo it and do fun stuff with it because this is a sentimental piece for the customer, but that's it. You can't really save this. It's as crappy as it's going to be, and it is what it is. Let's go ahead and come back up here, and I'm going to talk a little bit more. So with that being said, these things right here, these fake Damascus knives, absolutely are going to stay on the market. People are still going to be buying them because they think they look cool. Now, do they really care if it holds an edge? I guess not really, because a lot of the time they won't, because they're not actually hardened steel. Now, it just kind of cracks me up that people can buy stuff like this completely just unknowingly, with the fact that you got Damascus pattern, no pattern, a weld seam, so this is just whatever steel they could find, and this is just a thing that happens. And I'm pretty sure they spent like close to $100 on this knife. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. It's not even a very good art piece because even all the stuff on it just doesn't match very well. So it kind of cracks me up that this is what we have to compete against. Unreal. And then whenever we were at the show and they're looking at one of my chef's knives that is Damascus integral bolster with a Boynia handle, stuff like that, and it's like a $750 knife, and they're looking at that going, why is that Damascus knife $750 and these knives over here $60 or $50? Why is that knife $700 more than these other ones? And again, it's because of the work that went into it that made it a real knife versus these fake knives, where I can just go through and I can sand this pattern off, re-etch it, and it's just monosteel. So it's something to make sure that we educate our customers about. I know a lot of knife makers are not like crazy expert salesmen. All you're going to do is just educate what your knife process is, so how you built it, how you forge it, how you make it, where you get your handle material from, and why that stuff is superior to these crappy knockoff ECC /camp /chef, like they would still call this a chef's knife /axe /battle axe /hammer /bat /shovel /forklift. All those slashes always get me whenever I read all that stuff. But that right there, fake knife versus real knives. Make sure you educate your customers on what makes it real versus what makes these fake. Don't just sit there and talk trash about the knives because you're going to be off-putting about the knives. Just educate on what makes yours the actual real knife versus this being the fake knife. Hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully y'all don't run into a bunch of these at your different shows that you go to, but if you do, hopefully you're able to explain why things like this are not good quality knives based on a few of the things that you saw in this particular video with this one right here. If this was helpful at all, let me know, comment section down below. If you've ran into situations where you've had to compete with knives like this, Tell me the stories. Again, comment section down below. Guys, that is the end of this video. Make sure y'all come by Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Central Time for a live stream where we are going to be forging a knife. We're going to be using the power hammer for a little bit of that, so hopefully y'all are excited about that. We're going to have that in there. Plus, I am still filming a video to be released about the power hammer where we're actually going to forge a sword. So be on the lookout for that on one of these upcoming Shop Talk Tuesdays. Guys, y'all have an amazing day. Y'all stay safe out there. And I will catch y'all next time.